Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Ooh, Cindy Wallace, I like your hair curly like that. I don't ever see it that curly. It looks nice. Good morning. Everyone's joining. I'm going to give it a couple minutes. I do think we're going to have close to 50 today. So I just want to give people the opportunity to join here before we jump in. I have a lot to cover. And just so you know, I will share everything after, as well as record this too. So I don't want you to feel like you have to write things down if you don't want to have to try to remember everything. I will share everything after so that you guys can just listen and hopefully absorb and share feedback and all of those good things. And I just wanted to mention too, this is oh gosh, I think this is the I want to say fourth or fifth session that we've done this. And I try to do them the first Tuesday, excuse me, I try to do them the first Tuesday of every month just to be consistent so that people know what to expect. Next month, though, because it falls on spring break week, there will not be one. So we'll pick back up in May. I know everyone loves to travel that week when kids are off school. So just because I think that participation attendance would be pretty low. I'm just going to skip the month of April and then we'll pick back up in May. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna get started here too. The meeting's being recorded, just so you guys know. And then also wanted to mention there are agents from all brokerages here. It's open to anyone. So this is not just a five-star collaboration space. This is meant to be for any agents who want to listen and talk all things marketing. So I just wanted to put that out there. Just to reference it so that we know. The only thing really that can't be discussed, which is not going to apply here because this is a marketing collaboration, but is that we can't discuss commissions, right? So I wouldn't be doing that anyway because I am a marketing gal, so I'm not going to talk commissions with you. The only let's see here. Okay, so we'll get going. Okay, so today, what I was hoping to cover was a few things. Okay, first, I want to talk through the changes that have been made to Instagram for 2026. So there were some changes that kind of rolled out um, after the year. Sorry, one second. I'm trying to get more people in here. There's a lot more coming. Changes that were rolled out. So I want to talk through what those are and like what they change for you in terms of Instagram users so that you understand what's what. The other thing I want to talk through very briefly is this quick little AI thing, which I do not want to spend a ton of time on because I really think like if you wanted to do a full AI session, that would be a whole different ballgame, and that's not what this is. But I just wanted to share a piece that is being utilized by myself as well as Paul, who's the president of Five Star, and has been very helpful. So I wanted to mention that too. And then what we're going to move through is I spent a lot of time working through mapping out what I think a good communication plan for a seller's experience is. So what I mean by that is I'm not talking about what your listing presentation is. I'm not talking about how you're pricing a home. I'm not talking about the postcards that you're creating for it. I'm talking about how you're communicating with a seller during that journey so that they feel like they're up to date on what's happening and so that they're having a great experience, right? Because there's a saying that like silence, what is the saying? It's silence kills trust, right? So having a good communication pattern with people, and just talking through best practices there. So that's what we're going to focus on today. I did start working on both like a standard transaction seller communication roadmap as well as a luxury one. I do want to continue working on my luxury one because I think it needs a little bit more. But either way, that will be for another time. And then the buyers will come next. But I really want to be able to take time and not try to rush through like sellers, luxury sellers, buyers, luxury buyers. I want to be able to take time and like digest what we're talking about here because I think that would be the most helpful. So first things first, I'm going to share my screen here real quick um, so that you can see what I've put together. So we're going to share my Keynote real quick. So, okay. So here is what I put together for the Instagram updates. So I did post this in the marketing collaboration Facebook group, but I know not everyone sees that, and that's totally fine. But here are the big things and the things to take note of. And I know that we've talked about some of this too. So for the people who have been on these in the past, hold on one second. Gosh, there's still people joining. One sec. So the people who've been here in the past know that one of the things we've talked about was there is so much AI generated content out there, from the blogs that are being written to the videos that are being created to the images that are being created, that even though AI in the social media world hasn't been around for a super long time, right? AI has been around for a long time, but for us in the social media space, not nearly as long. People are already very smart in recognizing when something is AI, right? So like you can look at something, you can say, I know that's an AI generated image, or I know that video is AI, or you can even just the way that things are phrased when they're written, right? So especially if people don't take the time to change the copy. So if you have copy that's generated from an AI agent and you copy and paste it directly and you use that copy, people can tell, right? Like the formatting is very specific, especially if you use a ChatGPT, it's always like the same type of formatting, right? So it's stuff that people are, humans are smart and we pick up on it. And so now there's almost this like if people see something that they recognize is quickly AI generated, they skip it or they move past it quickly because it's not considered authentic, right? And so when we're talking about what you're viewing on social media, the first note they make here is that authenticity is always going to win, because we're already to a point where like, yeah, AI can be used for some cool things, but a lot of people get turned off by content that they feel was AI generated and not done with thought and intention behind it. So there's always going to be this some people, it's to each their own. But my personal opinion is that if I see something and I'm like, oh, that's an AI image, or oh, that's an AI video, I'm not nearly as interested in checking it out because it doesn't feel like you put much thought into it. It feels like you typed something into a computer and asked it to generate it for you. So either way, the whole philosophy here, though, is just like AI is everywhere. We know this. It's all over social. And so when you can create more authentic content, it's always going to perform better than your AI generated content, which honestly probably doesn't come as a surprise, but it's just something to reiterate that fact. The next thing that they updated is that, okay, so previously when you created a reel, so you created a video on on Instagram and you posted it, you were not able to include a clickable link within your reel. Okay, so you had to do this separately, right? So you had to share a story and then add the link to your story, or you had to do a post and then have like link in bio in the caption or whatever it is. But now when you create a reel, you are able to add a link to whatever it is. So, say for example, you were creating a reel of a listing that you had, right? So, you're creating this reel. Now you can actually include the link to that listing within that reel. Now, I will say and I want to talk through this too, because this is how Instagram, so this is kind of touching on number three. A few months ago, when we first had this conversation, there was a really good question because we were talking about CapCut versus edits, right? Both essentially do the exact same thing, which is you can edit videos, right? To create them. And then CapCut had been out for a long time. And then Instagram came out with its own video editing tool called Edits. And so there was this, we were kind of watching it to see, okay, well, is there going to be some sort of preferential treatment to the videos that are uploaded that have been edited using the Edits app versus those from CapCut, right? Because Meta, which is Instagram and Facebook, love to, they want to win, right? So we were like, okay, well, if it uses the Edits app and I post it from the Edits app, is it going to have preferential placement? Are more people going to see it as a way to like incentivize users to use that versus CapCut? So that number three here is what I'm referring to here, like the no penalty for third-party editing apps. So they've been watching it to see if using edits versus using CapCut plays into the algorithm, right? And so far, right? We're not super far into this, but so far there hasn't been any preferential treatment shown whether you use CapCut or edits. Now it comes into play where this clickable links in the reels is only if you use the edits app. So they're doing it in other ways. So they're showing that like features are coming out in other ways that are pushing the use towards edits versus CapCut. Okay, so this is one of the ways they're doing it. Honestly, I like edits.
Mhm.
I've been using it. I use CapCut and I use edits, and I like edits. I think it's super simple. It's free. CapCut is fine too. It's definitely a more robust program. But I will say, like, I have not had any issues using edits, and the fact that you can now create a reel with a link in it, honestly, is kind of incentive enough to use it, in my opinion, especially if I'm a realtor who's promoting something real estate related and I want to have a link to something, I would use the edits app even just for that. Um, in number three, though, one thing I want to say is if you're going to use CapCut, you if you do not pay for the premium version of CapCut or what's it called, standard plan or whatever it is, to remove that watermark is going to kill you. Okay, so if you use the free version of CapCut, there is a watermark on all of the videos that you create in the upper right-hand corner that says CapCut. If you pay, you are then able to remove that watermark from your videos. So if you're going to use CapCut, you want to pay that $5 to $7 a month or whatever it is to remove that watermark because otherwise that watermark really is not going to benefit you in any way. It's going to work against you. So I just want to mention that because if you're taking the time to create a video, I want to make sure that you're doing it in a way where you can get the most out of what you've created, and so that's just something I want to mention. Again, guys, I'm going to share this with you after. So take notes if you want to, but also don't feel like you have to. Um, what's the next thing, which is pretty cool, is that they're going to allow you soon, if they haven't already, and I haven't checked this week, but they're going to allow you to schedule reels ahead of time. So most of the time you have to use a scheduling software, like a third-party scheduling platform, right, to for posts and for things like that. Now, if you are in professional mode on Facebook, you are able to schedule posts ahead of time. If you've switched yours to a digital creator like professional dashboard, you are able to schedule posts ahead of time on Facebook. But on Instagram now, there's going to be they're going to allow you to schedule reels ahead of time. So this is coming, and I have to check if it's live yet, but I know it's going to be coming. They said Q1 of this year. So if it's not live already, it will be, which again is very helpful for planning, right? So I know realtors are busy and you're trying to fit, this much amount of work into this many hours a week. And so having something like this available to you when it wasn't previously, right? Because you had to use a third party if you were scheduling things ahead of time. Now you'll be able to do it right within Instagram. So that will be helpful. Um, Here's an interesting one too. So they call them early access reels, but essentially what it does is you post a reel and you allow people. So this is only applicable, guys, to people who have a public profile on Instagram. If your Instagram is not public, then this does not apply to you because no one outside of your followers can ever see it because it's not public. So I've made this note before, but anyone who's trying to grow a real estate business and intends on using social media to do that, you have to make sure your profiles are public. Okay. So if you haven't already, make sure you've done that. Either way, what this is going to allow you to do is they call it premiere, but it essentially allows your followers to see your reel first, and then the non-followers would almost get like a teaser. So it's going to get this blurred preview of a reel that would be like a coming soon. What's cool about this is that it almost is like followers get exclusive access to something prior to non-followers. So it's a little bit of an incentive for people to begin following you to be able to see what it is that followers get to see, right? So, and it also creates a little bit of anticipation. So hopefully the idea behind this, hopefully is that it drives people to follow you so that's the idea behind it. Just calling early access reels. This one is interesting too. Number six is interesting also. So, forever and always, when you're filming for Instagram, you're doing it portrait. Okay, you're doing it portrait because the media itself, when you're posting, especially like if you go to your Instagram, guys, and you click to look at your videos or your reels, everything is like a long rectangle, right? So you want to film it that way so that it's the best user experience for the people viewing it. Um, Instagram ads. Now, maybe this isn't super applicable depending on, how who they allow to pay for ads on Instagram TV and whatnot. But either way, what they're saying is people should start experimenting with horizontal reels and not just portrait reels. But the reason they're saying that is because they're allowing for ads. And if you pay for Instagram ads, right? If you pay for Instagram ads and Facebook ads, this is going to apply to you. If you don't, then you're not in this space anyway. But essentially, they're going to allow Instagram ads to begin playing on TV channels. Excuse me, not TV channels, but on TV. Which honestly could be pretty great, depending on what that looks like. I need to do a deeper dive to see, because oh my gosh, there are so many millions of people who pay for ads. I don't know who qualifies to appear on something like that versus don't. I don't know how much money you would have to fork out to do something like that, but I think it's interesting, because I haven't seen it before and they haven't allowed it before. So those types of things are interesting because they're kind of saying, hey, everything's been portrait and you've only been in these platforms. Now we're going to allow you to be on TV. If you pay for Instagram ads, the interesting part is TV is very obviously a horizontal platform. So you would have to tailor your ads for that. So that's kind of what they're talking about here. And I'm going to dig into this a little further just to understand who and how. But this is just one of the things they rolled out for 2026. This is interesting. Okay, so previously, guys, if you're familiar with how Instagram works, you were not able, so if you view a story on someone else's, any company's profile, any public company's profile, okay, you were not, when you clicked to read, clicked on it because you wanted to share it, you'd be able to share it as a post or you'd be able to send it to someone. Those were the things that you were able to do. Now you're able to actually share that story to your own story, which were you were not able to do that previously. Okay. The only time you were able to share a story to your own story is if you were tagged in someone else's story, right? And then it has the little button that says add to story. So this is new. And I think that they're seeing the amount of traction that stories are having because stories are a lot less of a commitment. They're disappearing after 24 hours. People can do them a lot more quickly. There's just less, um, there's less, what do I want to say? Less commitment, but also like less planning that has to go into the stories aspect of it. And so now they're saying, now they're allowing you to reshare any public account story to your own story. So that should make it easier for those of you who try to curate some content for your followers. This should make it a little easier because now you don't have to, now there's so much there's crap out there, but there's so much good content out there too, right? And there are some things where you're like, oh, I'd really like to share that. But before, if it was a story, you had to create a post or you had to like screenshot it and then include the link to it. And like it was kind of a hassle. So now this has changed. Um, Here's another thing that's changed. For those of you who have, again, professional dashboard, right? Which I would suggest you having, especially if you're trying to grow an Instagram following. But previously, like you post a reel and you could see views, right? There's that little eye in the corner that tells you how many people have watched the views. They have changed
Yes.
it to now only count a view
Hey,
when
what's up?
some. Oh, can we mute everybody?
Not much.
Hold on, sorry. This guy's got not much going on.
No,
I am
his
offended.
parents want to take a look at it, so we're taking a second
Oh
walk
boy.
through tonight.
Hold on, guys. I can't see who it is. Hold on. Did we?
It's Lance, I
Okay,
think.
Lance. I'm personally offended that he does not have much going on right now. Okay. Let's see here. All right, I got it. We're good. Okay, back. We're back. Um, so views now count only when someone taps into the post. Okay. So essentially, what it means is if someone's scrolling and that video comes up and they do not click to watch that video, it no longer counts towards your impression count. Which is a big change, guys. This is a big change because Previously, they didn't have to click on something to count as a view. If they stopped to watch it in a scroll, or it was served to them, like, oh, as the next whatever, it counted as a view. That no longer happens. So, what this means is for people who are following, what this means is you're going to see your video counts go down. The video view counts are going to go down, but that's not something to panic about. It's going to give you a much more like accurate number as opposed to people who like kind of scrolled past and stopped for a second and like kept moving. Because really, is that a video view? It's really not. But they were counting it, so they've changed how they were counting it, which I think is something to note, so that you understand as you're going forward. Like, say you post a video, that last week or this week or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, my last video got 9,000 views and this one's only at 2,000. What happened here? This is probably why. So don't panic and think that your content is bad. This is probably what's happening. Okay, next one, hashtags. Guys, I think hashtags are dead. I just want to say that. Like, I think hashtags are dead, like Facebook groups are almost dead. I don't know the point of them anymore, in all honesty, because you can tailor your Instagram algorithm to see the things you want to see, and you don't need to include hashtags in your posts. But either way, I think they're starting to phase them out, and I think that the way they're doing it is that they're now reducing how many hashtags you can include in your posts. Previously, if you guys ever saw, like, there are some people who would include 5,000 hashtags in the bottom of their caption, right? Where it was like they had this little caption and then they have 75 trillion hashtags, which serve absolutely no purpose, which is fine. But I think they're phasing them out. They're not helpful. They're not tailoring an algorithm anymore. There's other ways to do that. And I think the way that they're doing this is they're now like, okay, before you could include up to this many, now it's only 5. It's like the only reason they would shrink something like that back is because it wasn't working anymore, or it wasn't necessary anymore. So they've changed it to now be that you can only include 5. So something else to mention, and I know that this is Instagram heavy, but this is just where I wanted to start, is there's a way to customize your algorithm, guys. So there's your algorithm section. And if you haven't looked into this, I would suggest you do that, just because, I mean, if you're going to spend time on social, which we all are, it's like, why waste your time being served things that don't interest you? Which is why they give you this, like, show less of posts like this. Like, even on Facebook, they're like, you have the option to, like, not see posts like this, not see posts from this person, or show less from this person. You have all of those options. And so this is a way that they're trying to allow you to tailor the content you see even further, but because what they're trying to do is make your experience even better so that you stay on the platform or you continue using the platform. And so now they're giving you the ability to customize your algorithm. And I'm going to send this to you, but this can work to your advantage in terms of being a realtor, covering real estate topics, using specific words. So you can really use this to your advantage. But I just wanted to, I'm going to send this to you. We're already, wow, almost at 10:30. So I want to keep moving. But I want to say that this is, and I highlighted this in blue here, but this is one of the biggest shifts that Instagram has made towards allowing people to personalize their experience. And I do think that the reason they did this was because you can already do this on other platforms. Like, so on TikTok, you already can customize your algorithm. And because of the way TikTok has exploded over the last, 7 years, 5 years, whatever it's been, they allow for this customization. Instagram hasn't. And so now they're like, okay, well, how do we tailor the experience to be more enjoyable for the people who are on Instagram? And this is one of the shifts they've made. So I would suggest, moving into this and checking it out and customizing not only what you see, but also learning from it in a way that you can customize the content you're putting out there to attract the people that you want to see it. Okay, so again, I'm going to send this out, but essentially this is kind of how you can use the your algorithm feature within Instagram to kind of capture more of the audience that you want to see your content. And then I want to move quickly into this quick AI mention. Okay, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on AI. I know if I open this up, we will talk about AI for the rest of the time, and I don't want that. That's not what this session is going to be about today. But here's something that I wanted to share with you that we have started implementing, just a couple of us here at 5 Star on staff, and why this can be beneficial to your business. Okay, so firstly, there's a company called OpenClaw, which is free, it's like OpenAI, you can utilize it for a lot of different reasons. But one thing that has been very beneficial is that OpenAI, and again, pairing this with a site called Hostinger, okay, they can, with your approval, go into your, it could be your computer, it could be your whatever you want to allow them access to. Essentially, this is what this is doing right now. So I'm going to use the president of the company for an example because this is what we're utilizing it for at this moment. So we have birthdays, anniversaries from being an agent at 5-star, and then when an agent closes their first transaction. Okay, so we have a data set, right? So we have the agent's birthdays on file. We have the agent's anniversary on file. So we know when they've been here 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And then we also have when a new agent joins us once they close a new transaction. Okay. All of these are points of celebration. All of these should be mentioned. All of these should be pointed out. All of these should be congratulated. These are things that are important. And so, hold on, admit one more. So what we've done, what he's done, honestly, is that he implemented OpenClaw with Hostinger and gave it access to some items that like his iMessage, and he gave it access to the data set that has birthdays, anniversaries, and such, which we keep in a spread an on live document. Now, at first, I was like, oh my gosh, well, I don't want to give AI free run of my computer so that it has access to all of my stuff. Like, it definitely doesn't need that. That's not what happens. You choose what it can and cannot access. Okay. So you're not just like implementing something and then it has free reign of all of your files. That's not the way that it works. You choose what it has access to. So for this situation, it very specifically only has access to a couple of things. But what this allowed him to do was now every single morning, this is on a daily basis, every single morning, the OpenClaw runs against this data set and pulls any birthdays, anniversaries, or new transactions and creates a drafted text message in his phone that he can then review and say to send to the agents should he want to. So without him having to do anything on a daily basis every single morning, he has a stack of texts that are automatically generated based on the event for that agent once a day, every morning. He can then review them, tailor them, change a thing, whatever he wants to do, and then say to send them, and then they go out. So I want to mention this because I know that there's a lot of like, okay, well, how do I stay in touch with my clients? How do I stay in touch with people? What points should I be contacting them? And also, even if you say, I know I should be doing these things, are you doing them? And how do you set up a system to get them done? That's the reason that I mentioned this OpenClaw situation, because if you have a data set, okay, so you have to have the data somewhere for this to be able to reference. So if you don't have a CRM or a database or something that has your clients' birthdays or their home anniversaries, there's no data points for them to reference. So you can't utilize this. But if you do have a data set, you could do something exactly like this. And you could say, once a day, I want you to reference this data set, and I want you to create either emails or text messages, whatever it is you want. And you can tell it what you want them to say or change it or whatever. But once a day, it would automatically create these drafts and emails or automatically create these drafts and messages. And then it would notify you that they're ready for review, and then you could get them out. So it's kind of a very cool way to not have to do the work of like, okay, I need to go check whose birthday it is. I need to figure out if I want to do a text or a message. I need to figure out what to write. I mean, you can tailor them after they're drafted, but the bigger piece is they've started it for you. They've already conferred the data. They've started it for you, and then you can tailor it and then tell it to send. So that is why I'm talking about this, because I think it's a very cool thing that you could utilize. But again, the piece of it that matters the most is that there has to be a data set for it to reference. If there's no data set for it to reference, then it has no way of pulling these celebration events into something. Okay. All right. So moving along, and we are at 10:30, which is amazing. So we're going to talk about the seller experience. And I have a sheet here that I'm going to share. I don't want to like stick to this only, but I want to talk through this. And again, this is totally focusing on the communication touch points, and not the overall like how to price a home and those types of things. Okay, this is communication touch points and how to stay in touch with your clients. Hold on one second. Give me a 1 second here. Sorry, I had to do a screenshot. Oh, Leslie, I didn't tell you I was doing one. Well, I got in trouble last time because I take a screenshot to share after and I don't notify people that it's happening, and then everyone gets very mad when they don't look
Have to
good.
do it again. Do it again.
Okay. Okay, guys, I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna-
Everyone
wait, hold on.
smile. Everyone smile and look amazing because I'm not doing this again. This is already too much. Okay. You all looked great. And now there's proof you were here.
You gotta
Okay.
let me take my big dorky old lady glasses off.
But how will you see? Okay, so moving on to the next thing here. Next thing here. Okay, so here is, once she shares it, Marketing Genius. Share. Here we go. All right, so let's talk through this, and then hopefully there'll be time to open it up for like questions, comments, and all that good stuff. But I've spent a lot of time with this, and I'm like, I put it together, then I come back to it, then I'm like listening to different podcasts, then I'm like, ooh, maybe I should tailor this. So either way, but it's a kind of a work in progress, but I think that it's a good start. So one thing I love, and again, you know, you do this however you want to, but one thing I kind of love is having different paths. Okay, so different seller journeys, right? And I think that that completely starts with why they're selling their home. Because the why they're selling their home can really allow you to tailor their experience. Because you know, like the reason behind it, you know, probably what emotions are going to come along with it, which there'll be crossover, right? There's a range of emotions that sellers feel no matter what the reason they're selling is. But I love the idea of having different paths and then taking those different paths and customizing the experience for each path. And so came up with, you know, like the first four that I could think of that are like the big ones, right? So like downsizing, your family's growing, you need a bigger home, divorce, and then job relocation. Those are kind of like the four that I was like, ooh, you know, these are kind of the basics. Let's start there. Something that I really, really love is asking people how they prefer to communicate. Okay. So, like, you can continue tailoring someone's journey by asking that very simple question. Okay. So, if someone is, there are some people who are just like, give me one update. I don't want to hear from you all the time. Like they're off and they're doing whatever they're doing and they don't need the constant reassurance that things are on track and whatever. And so like what you find if you don't ask this question, what you find yourself doing is either over communicating or under communicating because you have no idea what this person wants or what the expectation is. Right. And so some people go into a listing appointment and they just tell you, here's what you're going to get from me. What if the person doesn't want that? You've decided that that's what's right, but what if the person doesn't want that that's on the other side of it, right? So it's almost like a way for you to ask them what they want and then allow them to choose, right? And if they're like, oh, I don't know, whatever, I would err in the side of over communication versus under communication. Okay. So asking that question. And then another thing too, I know some people, and again, time matters, right? So there are some people who are like, come over, we need to get our home listed. Like you don't have all the time in the world to prep and plan for something because some people are under the wire for whatever the reason is. And maybe you don't have the ability to customize the experience as much. But what I will say is a lot of times, at least agents that I speak to, they don't go to a home the very first time with everything prepared and a price in mind and whatever. The first meeting at the home tends to be a get to know me meeting, right? Talking about why they're moving, talking about expectations, looking at the home. Like, and then the second meeting would be okay, now I've had time to prepare. I not only can come back to you with a price suggestion, but also ideally like a customized seller packet, right? So I do see, which is not bad, okay, but I do see a lot of people using a generic one, which is totally fine, right? So You bring a generic listing presentation, and some people I know don't bring any, right? So they don't bring anything. And then there are agents I know that sit and every listing appointment is 2 hours and they walk through every single page of their listing presentation and they're also very successful. So it really is a whatever works for you. But I hope that even just talking through these things allows you a different way to view, or maybe a different idea than something you had thought, or the way you've been doing things previously, just to get wheels turning, right? So I would love the idea of going into a home the first time with nothing. I kind of love that, right? Because it's really like a get to know you and information, like, let's discuss this. What are you hoping for? Why are you moving? Blah, 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 blah. That information, and not like giving you a price right away, but that information allows you to take it back, digest it, and actually put something thoughtful together for the second meeting. Okay. Now some clients may not fly. Okay. Some people will just be like, no, we got one meeting. You tell me what you want me to list this as, yada, yada, whatever it is, right? You're going to be able to kind of feel someone out based on the conversation you're having with them. But I love the idea of having the time to put something custom together so that when you go back to their home with the actual price that you would list the home at, you've been able to take some time to personalize the seller packet for them. So when I say that, like, you can use generic content in the middle, but like, so for example, if the path was, because their family's growing. Maybe the cover shows a family with kids and moving boxes, right? Or if someone is downsizing because they're empty nesters or whatever the reason is, maybe there's something that shows, people slightly older who are enjoying life after they've downsized their home and don't have as much to worry about. Or if it's divorced, maybe you're crying over a cake. I don't know, but I'm just saying something allowing that image to resonate with the reason those people are moving. Okay. That's all I'm saying. It's like, if you can customize the cover of it, why not? The other thing I like to have, like I would suggest having, is a timeline. I know I've sold, in Chicago, it was 4. Here, it's only been 2. But like each time, I'm a planner. I am a type A. I like knowing what's happening and when. Not everyone wants that, but I like knowing what's happening and when. I would have loved to have some sort of calendar in front of me with expectations. I want to know, if I'm going to sign the listing agreement today, photos are going to be ordered within this week. This is the date that the listing's planning to go live. This is when sign install happens. I want to know when I'm good. Like, I want to know all of these things. Granted, things can change. We don't know the exact closing date. Okay. We don't know exactly when the appraisal is going to happen. These things are slightly fluid, but don't leave it up to interpretation, because if you leave it up to interpretation, people have no idea where to begin. And I would say too, like, even if they've sold a home before, don't just assume they know all of it, right? Most people are only selling a home every 7 years, right? So like, not everyone remembers and also maybe this is the first time they've worked with you versus with someone else. So I just find, like, don't leave it up for interpretation. Give people, a timeline of events, of what the next steps are, of what your plan is, so that there aren't a lot of questions. And I think that there's another thing that we're going to talk in here about weekly updates during the process, which I think will help with that too. But this is just to set the timeline for, like, and also you can even start with them and say, well, what is your ideal? When are you looking to move into a new home? And work backwards, right? Depending on average days in market in their area and those types of things. But I think having a timeline, of some sort in front of them, and allowing either them to choose their dates or you to just map out what the process looks like. Because and I've seen listing presentations over the last 16 years of doing this, and a lot of it is very basic. A lot of it is like, step 1, sign the listing agreement. Step 2, photos are ordered. Step 3, like, it's very, very generic. If no one's actually giving me dates on things that are applicable to my experience, it's probably not going to stay in my brain. Right? It's like, okay, here's the general process of selling your home. So the more you can customize it, the better. Obviously, I'm always going to recommend having a CMA with this, a printed CMA with what you bring to the home. Again, this is my encouragement for a second meeting. But again, if you have it and you want to bring it and talk pricing the first meeting, that's totally up to you. But this is my encouragement to have a little time to digest. I will just say, and I'm 40 now, but as I've gotten a little bit older, which may make people laugh. Chris, I saw you laugh. I know, I get it. 40's not that old, but I get it. I have found my best work is after I'm able to have a conversation, come back, digest what I've heard, put some thought into it, and then really apply what I've heard in that conversation to something. When I'm sitting there and I'm trying to like fire things off just because I'm in a meeting and it's moving, it's not my best work. And I could have done better. So either way, that's just, to each their own. And then this is kind of something that I loved. What if in this seller presentation, you took the time to write a little handwritten note that just lays on top or lays inside? Maybe you leave it behind in their listing presentation or something and they find it later, but something about like that you're grateful that they chose you as their realtor, that you're hoping that you'll find them the exact home for the, expansion of their family or whatever it is. But like, does anyone take the time or has anyone had the thought of including some sort of handwritten personalized note with their listing presentation? I know people send folded handwritten note cards. I think that's great. It's a very ninja thing to do, ninja selling, which is wonderful. But I'm like, what if we went a step further and we thanked them and told them we were grateful even before it started? Thank you for giving me this business. Thank you for working with me. Thank you for trusting me. Make it authentic to who you are and how you do business and the way what you want to say. But like, what if we did it in the beginning and not just after a transaction closes? Right? Because everyone's saying thank you and asking for referrals after a deal closes. What if you said thank you for the business right in the beginning? I think it would change the tone a little bit. Okay. So just a thought on that. Next thing is like, okay, so little celebrations, little things you can do throughout the transaction that are like celebratory. So instead of, so I don't even know, like right now, I don't know how common this is. I don't hear it often, but if the listing goes live, what happens? Like, is there any sort of, maybe there's a text that says listings live, or maybe there's an email that says, hey, we're live. I don't know I don't know exactly what everyone does. But what if you did more? What if you celebrated the fact that this listing is live? Because guess what? This is a very big deal to everyone on the other side of this, right? This is a big deal to those clients. And also, it's like, okay, check, I'm doing my job. Your listing is live, and let's celebrate this in some small way. You don't have to spend a ton of money on these things, right? But I'm just saying something to celebrate that because it is a big deal to the seller. It is a big deal to this person. The next one is under contract. Again, like I know that there is a phone call or a text that tells them they're under contract, and I'm challenging you to how you can make that a little bit more special. Okay, so now they're under contract. How can you make that news delivery a little more special, right? Okay. Clear to close, obviously, that's a huge deal because it's like we're in the clear now. This is happening. Again, what does that look like? And I just know from my personal experiences with selling homes, I will tell you all of these, and this is not a knock on the agent that I've used because he was a wonderful agent. Both of them were wonderful agents, but like these little things are the a little above and beyond, the little bit of extra that can set you apart from what other agents are doing because other agents are doing the baseline. Other agents are texting you when something goes live. Other agents are texting you when something's under contract. What is it that's going to set you apart and level you up just a little bit that sets you apart from other people? And that's what I'm trying to capture here is like there are these little milestones along the way that give you a reason to celebrate what's happening and to like really drive in how good of an experience you're creating for your seller. Okay? Okay, so agree with me or not, but I think that there are some weeks during the process where there's probably the highest level of anxiety on the seller's side, right? So we know that there's like, now granted, this is not if people have waived inspections and whatever, but like there's inspection week, there's the appraisal waiting period, and then there's the final approval before clear to close, right? So here's what I want to capitalize on, guys. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but there's a subject, a term called no news updates. Okay, so this is, we actually implemented, the leadership team at our title company implemented this because what happens is, again, silence being the trust killer, right? The homeowner doesn't hear anything. And so when they don't hear from you, they assume the worst or they interpret whatever that means. Why is it quiet? Why haven't I heard from them? Do not give them the room to interpret something like that when it probably isn't the case. So the no news update here is you don't have you like the inspection hasn't come back, that not that the appraisal is completed, not that this whatever. It's literally to call them and let them know everything is on track. There's nothing else you need to do on your side right now. We're at a period of waiting, and as soon as I have the results on this, I will reach out to you. It is literally just a little bit of a pacifier so that they have heard from you and they're not just like, well, I haven't heard from my agent in a while. I wonder what's happening. Okay. So the term no news updates, I think is a perfect thing to do. But when I mentioned the title company, we implemented this because what happens is there's this long period of no communication between when you send an order to a title company, they start working on it, and then you're just kind of in this holding phase for a bit. And if you don't hear from the title company, the reality is an agent should never have to call a title company and ask how something is going. Never. That should never be the case. And I would argue that's the exact same thing for a seller. A seller should never have to call the agent to ask how things are going. You have to be ahead of communication with these people. So I would just say no news update. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about, which I actually have a template for, and I have a little podcast recommendation for you guys. The other thing I'm going to talk about is, what did I call it? Hold on, let me see what I call it. The seller weekly update check-in. Okay. So I love a no news update, right? I think it's a great idea. I think doing that once a week is a lovely thing to do. Unless you've talked to them about other things. If you've already in communication with them, talking about other things, totally great. But don't ever let there be a week that goes by where you're not talking to your seller. And I think that the other thing about this is there are some listings where this is not going to apply because they sell very quickly. And I hope that that's always the case for you guys, but I think that's unrealistic to think that some listings won't be sitting. Especially as we've seen over the last few months, things tend to be sitting a little bit longer. There were price drops happening again. So I would just say there needs to be a communication plan in place. If your property does get sold in the first weekend or if it doesn't, right? What does communication look like depending on those two scenarios? So I did put the silence kills trust thing here because I think that's a very powerful thing to do. And then the longer you wait, so sometimes an agent will be like, okay, I'll call you when we have a showing, or I'll call you, I only want to call them once I have good news, right? But then there's this period again of just open. There's just open where the seller is wondering what's going on, and you don't want that to be the case. So I wanted to show you this quickly here. Let me see if it's going to pull. Can you guys see this seller weekly update checklist? Can you guys see this? Okay, cool. Didn't know if it jumped there or not. Okay, so this may seem like a lot, but it should not take you more than 10 minutes per listing per week, honestly. And it's something that you can put together, and this would take the place of a no news update. Okay, so say, no news updates are great, but you could also do this seller weekly update. And what I love about this, there's a couple things I want to point out about this. One is, granted, it should only take you 10 minutes or less per listing. And I just don't think that any of us are in a place where we have so many listings that we're not able to do this, right? That would be a great place to be in. But the other part about this too is if you do find yourself in a place where you have so much to do that you can't do this, this is something your admin could definitely do for you. Okay, so those of you who utilize an admin or pay to have administrative work done, this is absolutely something that they could put together for you, and then the script of it, and then you could use it for the call or for the video. So what I would say is, here's kind of the checklist of things to update your seller on a weekly basis. And then the delivery of this ideally would be either a phone call or you do a video of yourself talking through this that you then send to them, followed by this written out in an email form to them too, right? Because a lot of times there's two people that are involved in the sellers, right? So there's a couple or there, whatever it is. So you could text both of their phones differently. You could call both of them. You could try to do a joint call, whatever that looks like. Either way, I do think having this phone call or video of you talking through this, as well as putting this into an email, would be very beneficial for you. Only sending an email, guys, I think it just removes any of the personalization from this completely. I think you just put this into an email. It's a long email with an update. I don't know that they're going to read it. And I think you lose a lot of that personal touch. So my recommendation would be a video, ideally a video, because I think that's great, or a call to talk them through it. Or maybe you want to pop over and talk through it. Like maybe that's not every week, but it also depends on how long this listing's been sitting. So, okay. So this is kind of the checklist. Here's what to include in your weekly update. I would say a market snapshot. This is going to be very, very helpful, guys, in terms of having the justification and data needed if you have to do a price drop. Data is very powerful. Now, there are some emotional sellers who are like, this is what I want for my home, and this is what I'm going to get, and I'm not going to drop in whatever. But this, I think, is a really smart thing to have with you so that you can watch the trends in the area. So you can go to them and say, okay, so here's what you're seeing. So around around the area, here's the average days on market this week. Here are price drops that happened around the area or in comparable homes. Here are new competing listings that have popped up in your area that we're going to begin competing with or that are also on the market. People want to see those things. They want to understand what's happening while their home is listed. So I would include that. The next one is the listing activity of the home. So how many showings happened this week? How many showings happened to date, right? So not just this week, but like the overall since the listing. Was there an open house held? So you can calculate online views very easily. Like you can go to Zillow and it'll show you how many people have viewed. And if you're looking week to week, you would know exactly how many people viewed between those two. But having those types of things, you can then take those, plug them into a Google Sheet and create a graph very easily. So what this again helps us do is if you're trending like this, if your online views are going down, right? It's again going to, if you have you're sitting on the market, your online views are going down, it's been X number of weeks. Again, this is just a data set to help you have the conversation if you need to, that there needs to be a price adjustment, right? Is just having the data and providing the data to them on a weekly basis. Social media reach. So say you're doing a social media ad, maybe you did a social media reel or something like that, but including what you've done that week. Buyer feedback. So if there were showings, sharing buyer feedback, including what is helpful about this is, okay, yes, include highlights. Yes, include, whatever negatives you want to, but also the repeating comments, guys, the ones that are coming up over and over again. So like there are trends that you see sometimes about certain homes, right? Like, oh, liked this, but didn't like this, or this home feels overpriced, or whatever it is. But the common trends that you see, because that will again help to guide the conversation. This is what we're seeing a majority of people saying who have gone through the home. Marketing actions that you did this week. Did you launch a new social campaign? Did you post a new reel? Did you send an email out? Did you get updated photos because it's spring now and the last photos were in winter? Whatever it was. Those types of things. Did you mail to the neighborhood? Did you, whatever it is, anything like that would be in this for the week. Your own notes. So here's what I think we should do based on the activity. Here's what I've seen over the market over the last few weeks. And then finally, the planned next steps. And I think people do these updates, but this one is missed a lot. It's like, okay, it's great that you're giving me an update. Thank you for telling me how many listings there were, this, and this. What are the next steps for my listing? What are you recommending that we revisit in a week? What are you saying we should be doing? What's the next marketing push you have planned, if anything? Again, this is all applicable to listings that are sitting on the market for more than a week. Okay, not things that are selling in the weekend, obviously. But I think having this communication plan would be a really lovely idea. I know that if my home was listed and I was receiving something from like this from my realtor on a weekly basis, I would feel much better about the process, right? It seems like the agent knows what they're doing. They're on top of it. I would never question whether or not they're working. I know that there are people who have reached out to me and they're like, well, my listing's not selling. What more marketing should I be doing? Well, here's the reality. Your listing's not selling because it's not priced correctly for the market. That's the reality of the situation. But sellers don't understand that. Sellers are emotional. They have emotional ties to the home for whatever the reasons are. That doesn't fly with them. So having these communication checkpoints, which include data, can be very, very helpful for sellers who need to understand why the market is dictating the price of the home and where you need to go with it. So I will share this too, but I just wanted to talk through that. Okay, weekly updates are a must. We talked about that. I just talked about instead of emailing or texting, 60-second video, do a call. whatever that looks like. I wanted to do a quick podcast recommendation. So there's a guy, he's kind of popular, he's not super popular. Either way, it's called Your Daily Real Estate with Tristan Amata. It is on Apple Podcasts, it's on YouTube, it's all over. What I like about it is that it's 5 to 10 minutes a day. It's a 5 to 10 minute podcast with one digestible nugget of information that you can then take. And he's very big on systems, which I think can be very helpful because there's a lot of people who are like, I don't have any systems in place. What should I be doing? And so he does a really good job. And he's actually the one who kind of talked the idea and like his map for the seller weekly update. So I think that his is a very, very good one. It's low commitment. It's like 5 minutes a day, right? So I think his is great. Okay, we're almost done here. So personalized closing gift. I know that many people already are like, okay, I get a gift basket and I customize the gift basket based on the seller, right? So like if they have kids, I, include gifts for the kids or they have their own basket. If I know that they're big golfers, I'll include like some Titleist or some V1s, whatever it is, Pro V1, I don't know what it's called, Pro V1s, whatever. Include things like that. But so I just wanted to encourage that. I think a lot of people are already doing this. I think one thing that people do is as long as you're not giving them like a cutting board with your logo in the center of it, I think most people, sorry if that offended people, but I think most agents have nailed the closing gift strategy because you're already doing it. I think it's the first 10 things that we talked about that aren't necessarily always being nailed. I think the closing gift it's like, yeah, I always get a closing gift and I get a closing gift and I customize it and I drop it at the closing or I bring it to their house. That's great. But there are so many other points of importance that we just talked about that come before the closing gift. A closing gift is not going to save a relationship if the communication throughout the process has not been good. Right? So having good communication throughout the whole process, making them feel like they're plugged in, like they understand what's happening, that you haven't ghosted them, they're getting no news updates or weekly updates, that you're looking out for the best interest. Those things all matter. You can't be doing a subpar communication strategy, but get them a great closing gift and think that they're going to continue to send referrals to you. That's not realistic. So don't hang so much weight on a closing gift that you ignore the other stuff. So I hope that makes sense. Post-close relationship touches. This is the last thing we're going to talk about here. And I apologize because I knew we had a lot to cover. And I'm seeing some chats that I haven't gotten to yet. Post-relationship touches. Yes, there are a lot of important communication touches throughout the seller's experience, but it is equally or less than important to what you do after a side closes, after a transaction closes. How are you staying in touch with these people once there's no listing anymore, right? So how are you staying in touch with them, thanking them for their business, but then also continuing to nurture a relationship so that they send referrals to you? Because that's the whole goal, right? It's not only to do a good job for these clients, but to also get referrals from them. I love the idea of doing things that are a little bit unexpected. So I think that there's like, how about at the 3-month mark, you do something? How about after 1 week, you do a text, see how they're settling in, see if you can stop by, check, bring over whatever it is. How about 3 months? Nothing special is happening at 3 months. Nothing special, right? So like, why not 3 months or why not 4 months? Or I love the idea of seeing something and just texting them completely randomly. I was actually sitting with the number one agent, he's a very top producing agent at 5-star last week. And I said, what marketing are you doing? Because I love to pick the brains of people who have built a very successful business. And I said, what marketing are you doing? And this is what he does, which I think is a wonderful thing and really doesn't necessarily play into this follow-up after the thing, but it kind of does. He said 1 hour per week. Okay. So everyone's like time blocking, blah, 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 blah. You've all heard it before, but 1 hour per week. This person who also has multiple admins to handle a lot of the administrative work, this person sits and he does what he calls ABCs. And he goes through the contacts on his phone and he just starts text conversations with as many people as he can get to in that 1 hour per week. And then the next week he picks up where he left off in his phone directory and he does the next hour. 1 hour per week, he is starting conversations with the people in his phone. That is what he does. That is his marketing. That is how he keeps conversations going, which honestly is not a heavy lift for anyone. It's more sitting down to do it. right? So I just thought that was interesting because, of course, I've, talked follow-up plans and talk staying in touch with people and all of those things. But I love the idea of just starting conversations with as many people as you can in an hour. And he texts. He doesn't even call, he texts. And then starting with, for the next hour, it's just blocking off that time to do it. So, but sending them a gift, like everyone sends a gift in the holidays, everyone sends a greeting card on the holidays. So how about doing it at a different time of year, right? Like how about doing it when it's unexpected as opposed to around Christmas and New Year when every single other person is sending something already and it's incredibly cluttered. So thinking of times and ways where what you will do will stand out more because everyone else isn't already doing it is I guess what the challenge would be. But once you have a system, guys, once you're like, ooh, I've tested this and this went over really well. I texted after a week, send a handwritten note after 3 months. And then instead of doing holidays, or excuse me, instead of doing Christmas and New Year's, I did something for Valentine's Day, or I did something for whatever holiday. I don't care what you use, but like not just when everyone else is doing it. You test these things, you see what you get the best responses of, and then once you have a system, you can follow it for most people. Now, tailoring it dependent on the person, right? But a system to follow. So really, it's 11. So oh boy, there's chats. And if you guys want to stay so I can go through these, otherwise we are done. And thank you so much for being a part of this. I hope you found it helpful. I will send you a follow-up email with the presentation and the recording so that you can reference it should you need to. Okay, so let's jump into these questions here. If you don't have the public to see specific posts, yeah, you can change that post private. Yes, Jessica, excellent point. So I did say you should have a public profile, but if you don't want to, guys, you are able to change the settings so that some of the things you post can only be viewed by certain people. Okay, so you do have that ability. So say some people are, they don't want to show their kids publicly or whatever it is, you have the ability to change that in the settings when you're posting something. So just keep that in mind. If you don't want everything public, totally up to you. Brooke Finland, will this work with the new 5-star CRM that Paul is rolling out? Yes, Brooke, great question. So for 5-star agents, we're rolling out Homebase Monday is the day it's coming. And yes, that is a data set that you can allow OpenClaw to access in terms of birthdays and home anniversaries, which could then generate those text messages for you. So yes, the answer is yes, as long as your data is in Homebase. You have to add it into Homebase, okay? Can someone please share the link to the Facebook group? What face? Oh, Realtor Jason, I'll get you that. I'll get that for you, unless it was already there. Oh, the collaboration. Yeah, I'll send that to you, Jason. I'll make sure you get it. Crumble cookies, yeah, crumble cookies. I love that they deliver. I will say those things, if you eat too many of them, will make you feel very sick. Like they are intense. Like I've gone too far, guys. I've gone too far because they're so good and beautiful. But I do love that they deliver. But I'm off crumble cookies right now, but I understand it. They are great. I agree with you. And I love that something can just be delivered. And I love when oh, you know what I wanted to share? There is this really great agent out of our Davison office named Ryan Richardson. And what he did is that he's like a big coffee enthusiast and he bought some of his favorite local coffees and he had a sticker printed and he put them on the back and just said like Ryan, like it had his branding on it. And then he went and dropped a bag of coffee off at his clients' homes and it was just waiting on the doorstep for them when they got home. I love that. If you have the time to do the driving of it, I love that. I love crumble cookies because it takes the delivery aspect off of you, but I love the idea of something like that because if I came home and there's a wonderful local bag of coffee from my realtor, I mean, come on. Sarah, another good thing in plan next steps is to ask them if there's anything they'd like to see you do. That's a good thought. I didn't think of that. So Sarah said, so in the beginning when I was like, let's ask them, another good thing is planning the next steps. Oh, for next steps. Yes. So for the weekly updates, when you're putting that together, turning it on them and asking them if there's anything else they want to see from you in the following week, which I think is a really nice thing too. And it can start a conversation again to help adjust expectations and having good open communication. I think that's really smart. And I hadn't thought of that. So I like that. Okay. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Great. Okay.
Mary,
Yes.
I'm a Florida agent and I accidentally hopped on at the wrong time, of course. But is this
Okay.
was this recorded? Is it going
Yes.
to go up anywhere? Okay, where
Yeah,
will it be?
yeah. Yeah, so it'll be recorded and I'll email it to you guys. I will email the recording. But yes, it's definitely been recorded. And again, like I mentioned too, so we're not going to have this in April because it falls on the spring break week, but we'll pick back up in May. If you guys need anything marketing related or not, I'm always available. I will send you an email and I hope you have a really great week. Thanks, guys. See ya.